This is the Dareu Cool 60, a 60% Hall effect magnetic rapid trigger keyboard with an 8000 Hz polling rate. In today's video, we'll take a look at build quality, check the accuracy of the magnetic switches, and most importantly, measure the performance and compare it to over 30 other rapid trigger keyboards I've tested so far. Before we start, a quick heads up. Dareu provided me with this unit for review, but all opinions are my own. Let's start with a quick unboxing. The package contains the keyboard itself. This is the black color variant, but there are also other options available: red, pink and white. Interestingly, only the white version does not use see-through keycaps. Instead, it features a topographic design with side printed legends. Apart from that, you get a USB-C cable, a strap that attaches to the side of the keyboard, a Velcro strap, a keycap and switch puller, and one more thing that I'm not entirely sure about. I found somewhere on the internet that it's supposed to be a keyboard hanger. If that's true, I have to admit this is one of the most original ideas out there. Let's move on to build quality. I wasn't able to find any information regarding the keycaps, so I can't say exactly what they're made of, but if I had to guess, I'd say PBT. They have printed legends which are readable and look fine, and they're completely see-through. This means that when you turn on the RGB, the keyboard really glows. The keyboard even has a completely transparent case, letting a generous amount of light through the side and bottom. If you have a white desk, this creates a nice halo effect around the keyboard. The overall build quality is okay. It's hefty and pretty stiff. However, since most of the material is polycarbonate, it will squeak when you try to twist it. Of course, that won't happen during normal use. The switches used in the keyboard are the ice blade magnetic switches. It has an initial actuation force of 35 grams, a bottom out force of 50 grams, and a total travel of 3.5 millimeters. The keyboard supports hot swap, so you can freely change the original switches. Dareu did put some effort into making the keyboard sound nice. There's an aluminum positioning plate sitting on top of a poron foam, as well as IXPE under switch padding. Since the case is transparent, there's no bottom foam, which could have improved the sound even further. But even without it, I think it sounds really good. Just listen to this. When it comes to smaller details, I really like that the arrow key legends are printed on the keys. It makes them much easier to find and use with the FN key. Now let's test the accuracy, performance and see whether this keyboard truly supports the 8000 Hz polling rate. I use a micrometer to precisely move the stem of the switch and check whether the values set in the software are accurately reflected in real life. I set a 1mm activation point and 0.1mm rapid trigger sensitivity. I'm happy to say that the Cool 60 matches those values quite precisely. There is a minimal margin of error, but I believe that comes from my measuring method rather than the switch itself. Overall, it passed the accuracy test, and I'm happy to report that I haven't found any stability issues or random activations and deactivations while gaming. Moving on to performance, and I have to admit, since I hadn't tested any Dareu keyboards before, I wasn't expecting much. To me, it seemed like one of those brands trying to ride the hype of magnetic keyboards without offering much in return. But I'm happy to say I was proven wrong. This keyboard really is on par with some of the fastest keyboards I've tested. The average delay I measured was just 23.8 milliseconds, which makes this keyboard only 3 milliseconds slower than the Wooting, which currently holds the first place. 3 milliseconds is not something you'll notice in gaming, even the most competitive ones. This result also puts the Cool 60 in 12th place on my list. And just for those of you unfamiliar with my testing method, I use a 1000 FPS camera to measure the time it takes for an unscope animation to begin on screen after I release the button assigned to scope unscope on the keyboard. This means we're measuring total system latency, but it's a great way to consistently compare different keyboards. Finally, before we move on to software, let's check whether the keyboard truly supports 8000 Hz as advertised. For that, I use the Keyboard Inspector app, which helps evaluate polling rate claims. The result is spot on. The keyboard easily achieves 8000 Hz. Now let's move on to the software. In order to change the settings of the keyboard, you can use the web-based software. After pairing it with the device, you can do the usual things like reassignment and RGB settings, but the most important features for us are the precision and rapid trigger settings. The keyboard lets you set a 0.2mm activation point as the minimum and 0.01mm rapid trigger travel distance as the minimum. Pretty impressive, although I'd stay away from those values as you'll definitely get accidental inputs if you use them. There's also a dead zone setting as well as self-adaptive setting for rapid trigger. I haven't tested that one as I believe having precise manual control over your inputs in gaming is much better anyway. Another nice feature is that you can set SOCD binding to different keys and it works really well. You can also calibrate the keyboard, which is especially helpful when replacing the original magnetic switches with an aftermarket ones or after a firmware update. In fact, I suggest doing it right away, right after connecting the keyboard to your PC to avoid any weird behavior. The graphical side of the software is okay, it's readable, does the job, and it's quite easy to navigate. There's no bloatware or unnecessary ads included, which is always a plus. So now it's time to sum things up. Is this keyboard good? Yes. Should you consider it if you're looking for a magnetic keyboard that's fast, supports rapid trigger and SOCD? Absolutely. For $60, this keyboard offers very good value and performance, matching some of the more expensive competitors. And that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.